The desert looks empty, but emptiness can move. Sand becomes blades. Wind becomes a wall. Heat disappears after sunset. And the same place that burns you can freeze you. Nature looks calm, beautiful, silent, alive. But beneath that surface, there is force, pressure building, gas rising, ice cracking, wind sharpening. A lake can suffocate a valley. A tree can burn your skin. A storm can erase direction. This is Nature is Scary, the planet that does not care. A desert looks unfinished, open, bare, silent. But emptiness is not absence. It is exposure. There are no trees to slow the wind, no shade to soften the light, no moisture to hold the heat in place, no landmarks that stay useful once dust begins to move. The desert is not one danger. It is a system of missing protection. During the day, radiation builds on stone and sand. At night, that heat can vanish fast. Between those two extremes, the ground keeps shifting. Dunes migrate. Dry lakebeds fracture. Dust lifts into the air. Salt crusts break beneath weight. What makes the desert unsettling is not only what it contains, it is what it removes. Water, shelter, direction, sound, time. And when the wind rises, that emptiness becomes something with mass, something with edges, something that can arrive like a wall. A dust storm does not have to look dangerous at first. It can begin as a line on the horizon, low, brown, almost still. Then the line grows taller. It spreads sideways. It swallows the distance between you and everything else. In desert regions, thunderstorm outflow winds can drive walls of dust across open ground. These are often called haboobs. They can reduce visibility in seconds. Roads disappear. Buildings fade. The sun turns dull. The air becomes grit. This is not fog. Fog softens the world. Dust attacks it. The particles strike exposed skin. They scrape eyes. They fill the nose and mouth. They turn breathing into work. A place that looked wide open becomes a sealed room with no walls. And the most dangerous part is the speed. It may already be changing the rules around you. Sand looks soft when it is still. But sand in motion becomes different material. Each grain is small, hard, angular enough to scrape, light enough to fly. Driven by wind, sand can polish stone, bury roads, scour paint, erase tracks within minutes. And in some dunes, the desert even makes sound. At places like Great Sand Dunes, avalanching sand can produce a deep humming or booming tone. Millions of grains move together. Air is pushed through the sliding mass. The dune vibrates. It sounds alive, but it is physics. Friction, grain size, moisture, slope, motion. The same surface that appears frozen can suddenly slide beneath itself. The dune keeps changing. The ridgeline shifts. The map becomes temporary. And once the land itself refuses to stay fixed, direction becomes the next thing to fail. In a forest, direction can come from trees. In a city, from streets. In mountains, from ridges. But in open desert, the world can repeat itself. One dune looks like the next. One flat basin becomes another. Tracks disappear behind you. The horizon refuses to give scale. Then dust arrives. The sky and ground begin to merge. Shadows vanish. Depth becomes unreliable. Distance collapses into one color. This is how a landscape can erase direction without changing its shape. The danger is not only getting lost, it is losing proof of where you are. A road becomes a pale line. A mountain becomes a blur. The sun becomes a weak disk behind particles. In that moment, the desert stops being a place you cross. It becomes a field of uncertainty. And when the air finally clears, the desert does not return everything to where it was. A dust storm does not end when the air clears. It leaves evidence: sand against doors, dust inside machines, roads covered, fields stripped, soil moved from one place to another. Across the planet, desert dust can travel enormous distances, from North Africa across the Atlantic, from dry basins into cities, from exposed ground into lungs. The particles are small enough to stay suspended, large enough to darken skies, abundant enough to change air quality far from where they began. In history, dust has buried farms, forced migrations, turned ordinary weather into a long environmental crisis. That is what makes desert dust different from simple dirt. It is landscape in motion, a place being lifted, broken into particles, and carried somewhere else. And even after the dust settles, the desert still changes again when the sun disappears. Deserts are famous for heat, but heat is only half the trap. In many deserts, the air is extremely dry. There is little water vapor to hold warmth near the ground after sunset. The surface loses energy fast. The same sand and rock that burned in daylight can turn cold under a clear night sky. The body does not experience this as a theory. It experiences it as stress. Sweat that helped during the day becomes a problem at night. Wind pulls heat from exposed skin. Muscles tighten. Judgment slows. Cold begins working through the same body that was fighting heat hours earlier. This is why the desert feels like a contradiction. It can dehydrate you before sunset, then chill you after it. And at the far edge of desert science are polar deserts, where dryness and cold become the main environment. Desert does not always mean hot. It means scarce water. And where water is scarce, the body has less margin for error. The word desert usually creates one image: heat, sand, sun. But some deserts are cold enough to change what survival means. Antarctica is considered a desert because it receives very little precipitation. In polar deserts, most water is locked away as ice. The air can be dry. The wind can be severe. The landscape can appear endless and empty. Here, the desert is not burning the body. It is draining it. Wind removes heat. Dry air steals moisture. Cold stiffens materials. Metal, plastic, skin, and breath all behave differently. This is the other desert. Not golden, not warm, not the image people expect, but it follows the same rule: scarcity. Too little liquid water, too little shelter, too little margin. Whether the desert burns or freezes, it does the same thing first. It removes comfort. Then it removes options. The desert is not empty. It is active in ways that are easy to miss. Wind rearranges its surface. The patterns are never the same. Sand erases footprints and leaves no record of your arrival. Dust leaves one continent and reaches another. Heat rises and disappears. It is a world of constant motion. Cold arrives without clouds. The temperature drops rapidly. Dunes shift even when no one is watching. They move with intent. Nothing about it is truly still. The danger is that the movement is often slow or silent, or hidden inside conditions you only notice too late. That is all. A storm becomes a wall. A dune becomes a slope. It is a world of constant movement. A path becomes blank, and the hot day becomes night. That is why deserts do not need forests, or animals, or obvious threats to feel alive. They are built from exposure, from absence, from forces with nothing in their way. And once those forces start moving, the desert becomes active. The empty place is not empty anymore. It is alive. Some plants defend themselves with chemistry and pain. Trees can poison. Seeds can explode. Leaves can burn skin on contact. And rooted life can become surprisingly violent. What we have seen is not nature turning evil, it is nature operating normally. Gas rises, water moves, storms form, and when the conditions align, life gets caught in the system. Because the planet does not choose victims, it only follows physics.